Okay, so this is Nicole,
And John.
and we understand that today's episode was supposed to be with our marriage counselor. I just recently graduated and started a new job this week, so it's been a really hectic week for us. We were not able to schedule our counselor in this week, so we're going to have to reschedule for next week, so he'll probably be the next episode. But John came up with a couple other topics that he really wanted to talk about. So one of the things that you were talking about was it's really frustrating when you're a combat MOS. It's really hard to translate those skills into words on a resume that a non-military civilian job recruiter or potential employer is going to be able to understand in order to apply that to the position that you're applying for. So what's a specific, do you have any specific events that you can recall from your training that stand out in your memory?
Well, yeah, I have one. Usually in the National Guard, we have annual training, well, like I said in the last pod. So in 2013, during my unit's annual training, we were training up on offensive operations as well as defensive operations. I was in a weapons squad. I think it was 1st Platoon. I was a 240 gunner in weapons squad. A 240 Bravo is a machine gun. It's belt fed, open bolt, air cooled. It's a heavy son of a bitch too. It is a motherfucker to carry that for long distances, and usually people who are 240 gunners usually got fucked up backs and shit. So, as well as that, usually I had to carry my own ammo. So, 1,000 rounds of 7.62, even blanks. Well, I'm glad it's blanks because actual ammo would be even worse to carry. Live rounds. So, like 7.62 blanks because this is a training event. So, it's like carrying boulders in your ruck. And then, part of light infantryman's thing is, pack light, freeze at night. So basically, while we're out there doing our field problems for like the first 5 days, we're just offensive operations. That's basically patrol base operations, recon, conducting ambushes, and the forever loved every infantryman's, after they've been in for about 4 years, it's just nonsense. Movement to contact and react to contact. Everybody loves that one, I'll tell you what. Another guy I mentioned in my last episode is Trevor Thomas, and I were tasked with building a machine gun nest when we were kind of done with our offensive operations and we're moving more into our defensive operations of our field problems. We got tasked with building the gun nest because they wanted to, everyone, the other gun team had to build theirs, but, I'm just explaining on my side. I always say it's good to have friends that are hunters because most guys I know that grew up hunting can blend in with their environment so well because that's part of what you have to do to sneak up and stock up on your prey or your game or however you want to see it. So with the help of the other squads and some e-tools, because of course the Army has to make everything difficult and they couldn't say, oh hey, let's give you some fucking real shovels. So you have these little e-tools that fucking suck at digging. It took us like a good couple hours just to dig like maybe 3 or 4 feet, maybe 5 feet in. So, so it was pretty cool to have the other squads come in and help as well, which shows you team leaders, or shows you everyone can work together. That shows you veterans when you come out on the outside and you're looking for a job. It shows that you have that compatibility to where you can go to a different environment and work within that environment and adapt. So we dug in and built the foundation. Then the other guys went back to the squads. And then pretty much after those shenanigans, which it was, because then we started like throwing rocks, playing stupid, games like we always do. Then it was up to me and Thomas to go ahead and start blending our gun nest to match the area that we were operating in. Pretty much, yeah, then the last 3 or 2 days, I'm not sure because it was a long ass time ago, we were pretty much stuck in that hot box for day and night. So during the days, it's Camp Blanding, so it's hot. It's like we always make up this weird conspiracy that the government controls Camp Blanding like it's a dome, and it's not, it's an actual dome, but it looks like it has open space, but it's not. And that they control the weather, and every time they know that we're going out there to train, they always have the shittiest weather for us. But usually, honestly, it's just because we always train in July and August, which is stupid because it's July and August in Florida in dense woods with a bunch of gear on and not much sleep and not much food intake. So you can do the math on that one. The nights were honestly, that's the most I remember, or that's part of why I remember is me and Thomas would sit there at night, and we've been up since 04 the day before, and we would put a big old dip in our lip and just have story time, and just that's how we kept, that's how we stayed awake, so we didn't get in trouble by our higher ups, or we didn't get snuck up on and then get eliminated, quote unquote, because this is also a training event. This isn't real life. So around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, we were being stalked by our Op 4, which is opposing forces, which is just another platoon, probably second platoon, I think, or third. I think it was third. And they were just basically playing an opposing force, attacking or stalking us and basically, ambushing us from, they were flanking us from our right side. So Thomas and I were in the gun nest, and we could hear them creeping up slower and slower and slower, or faster and faster and faster. It just seemed like it was slow and fast. It seemed like they were taking forever to reach us, but at the same time, I just couldn't wait to open up with some hellacious fire. So we waited until basically we could hear them breathing. And the funny thing is they didn't even know where we were. They were literally crawling right into our nest. They didn't have any idea what it was. They just thought it was like a tree trunk or like a hill or something, because it is pitch black. So even with nods, and I say nods in here, but that is just night operation devices, I believe, and also night vision goggles. You can't see anything through those motherfuckers, especially the PVS 14s, like the second gen or third gen, man. It's still grainy as shit. Right as we heard them breathing, I opened up with cyclic rate of fire and just started to gain basically fire superiority. That's what you do when you're trying to eliminate the threat, or you're getting attacked, you're moving to contact and reacting to it. You want to gain fire superiority, so that way they think if you don't, basically you just want fire superiority. So otherwise, I'm going to sit here all night talking, going down the rabbit hole. Eventually, we were overwhelmed, and they pretty much overwhelmed the gun nest, so we bounded back out of the gun nest. And the gun nest, we bounded out of the gun nest and to our last line of defense, that's where in the op order we knew that's where we had to go back to if we got overrun in our gun nest, and that's exactly what we did. So in that part, that also can relate to veterans from combat MOSs. If you ever had to do training like this and you were taught or you were briefed on what you had to do, you know exactly what you have to do as soon as it kicks in or as soon as something happens. So you do have, most combat MOS dudes usually have that fight or flight mode, and they fight. So, like I said, we bounded back to our last line of defense. We were low on ammo. I think we only had like another 30 rounds in there. And then the weapon system went ahead and got a triple feed at night with nods on, and all this chaos erupting, all this gunfire, all this crap going off. They're shooting cluster bombs off and shit. So it's real loud, it's chaotic, it's hectic. The fucking night vision sucks because you see all these flashes and someone shoots a loom and now you're fucked anyway, so now you gotta take that bitch off. So I was sitting there, and it was fast as fuck, but it just seemed really slow at the time, and I just saw the triple miss feed, and I was like, basically, oh shit, like if it was slow-mo, and I just automatically thought that I remembered that there was like another 100-round belt inside the machine gun nest. So then I low crawled as fast as I could to get to that machine gun nest, dove in head first, grabbed the rounds, low crawled back, got back there, slapped the rounds back in the feed tray, pop it down, and then rack it, because my team leader Thomas was clearing a triple feed with just what do you call those things, Gerbers. So he had a Gerber and nods on, and this dude's clearing a 7.62 triple feed. So we slap new rounds on, clear it, and then get a round in there, go to fire it off, indexed, right? Right as we're getting ready to fucking whoop some ass, we get indexed. But, and that's the whole thing, right, that we're going to take away from this, is that a combat MOS, usually you're trained for combat, but there's little details that are within your training that you can see on the outside in the civilian world, that you're going to get into certain things. Like if you have a bunch of customers, if you're working retail and you have a bunch of customers that come in at one time, and you're low manpower because somebody quit on the job and walked out, and there's only two of you and a manager, and you got to deal with 30 people in your store and get them all calm and collective and collect yourselves, and don't let them see you panic, because then they're just going to try to rush you more. Or you got a deadline on a project for college and you need to get it done, but you want to go to a party or you want to do this. You know that your discipline and your training is going to tell you, hey, you need to get this done, let's study this, get it aced, and party later, or etc. It goes on and on. We could go on forever on that one. That moment when I did that is why I told this story, because it always comes back to me every time, because Thomas and I still call that day my Saving Private Ryan moment. And it was, till this day, it's still so epic. And if you were there, it would have been even more funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but it was funny after. That's all I had to say on that, really, is just you have to remember your training and just remember what you were taught, and that's going to serve you well when you are transitioning, hopefully.
Right. So the challenge would be translating that experience that you just shared into terms that a potential employer with no military background is going to understand. Like, how do you explain that story that you just shared and explain to a job recruiter how that can be applied to whatever job you might be applying for? Right. Whether it's some type of store management position, or working in an office, or just something totally and completely on the opposite end of the spectrum than you've ever done in the military, but the skills you acquired in the military can still be beneficial to that job, even though it's different and even though it's a civilian job. So some notes that I just took just from listening to your story, thinking in terms of, like, if I were a job recruiter, the type of skills that I would be looking for to either manage a store or lead groups of like 5 to 10 people in a training session, or managing a busy office with multiple tasks that you're responsible for. Say you're responsible for a multitude of things all at the same time, like managing incoming faxes, phone calls, people who walk into the office, right, telephone calls. So it's a bunch of things are all happening at once, right? So if you're applying for a job like this, how the heck do you explain to a recruiter how that story that you just told is going to help you in a job like that? And so these are just some things that first popped in to my head that I wrote down while you were telling that story, right?
Right. So, well, one of the things I would say, and I want to hit on, is it's combat MOSs, but it's also, there's a lot of other MOSs I've seen, like, because sometimes you deal with them, but most of the time, like, if you're in an infantry unit on deployment, usually you're just dealing with your own guys, unless you're, like on my first deployment, it was integrated. So we had a lot of not combat MOSs that would ride in the vehicles with us and help us with the security elements and everything. So I've seen a lot of those people perform well as just as good as a fresh grunt, you know? So I just wanted to put that out there, that both sides need
right.
the same training and all, or need to remember their training and everything, so when they come out. The other thing I wanted to say is most of the time, your employer, especially if they've never been in the military, is not going to understand what you're saying. So don't try to tell them like this big, huge war story, all this stuff.
Right, that's what I was getting at. So just from the story you just told, this is what I learned about you, right?
Right.
Written in civilian terms, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I just learned about you from that story. You have the ability to multitask in high-stress situations, meet abrupt deadlines, adjust job priorities with changing demands as more pressing matters present themselves. So that basically means you have the ability to adjust as the situation changes and still meet task requirements.
Mm.
You're highly skilled in prevention measures to manage potential disasters and emergencies. You're a self-starting learner that catches on quickly and easily to training measures, and you can easily abide by and implement company policy and procedures. At the beginning of the story, you mentioned that you were on weapons squad and you have experience with building certain types of machine guns.
Well, I don't build them. So what it is you have, an infantryman in general, you get a lot of time on different weapon systems.
Okay, so you're familiar with different weapon systems.
Right, the mechanics of them, how they work.
Right, and because I'm your wife and I know you went to air assault school and learned how different types of helicopters work and the mechanics of that.
Right.
And I also know you went to Javelin Missile School, and those are also very complex machine systems.
Yes.
So you could also put in your resume that you have experience working on complex machine systems, and you have more than a basic knowledge of small systems machine mechanics, right?
I mean, we don't think that way, but maybe if an employer would, that would be cool.
Yeah, if you're trying to, it's all about taking those skills that you learn in the military and rewording it and branding yourself or marketing yourself in a way that is going to be attractive to a potential employer who has no military background.
Yeah.
So you're translating all these skills that you learn into verbiage that a civilian is going to understand, like all the examples that I just gave. Right. On top of that, you have leadership experience because you've had several instances where you've had to lead a small team of between 5 to 10 people in order to complete various tasks.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all about wording it in a way that's very, very relatable to a majority of jobs within the civilian world.
So, verbage. It's an FCAT word.
So another thing I wanted to mention that really stood out to me, that's a potential job training, could be potential job training that you can add to your resume.
Yeah.
So FEMA offers free online courses for emergency and disaster management. They're continuing education units. They're called CEUs. They're free. They're issued by the Department of Homeland Security. And the reason I know about it is because a lot of people who have worked in hospitals or even the food service industry or any type of clinical positions like doctors, nurses, and even dietitians will often whatever company they work for will require them to go through the FEMA courses to become familiarized with what is your role in the event of a disaster. So like when I was interning at Holmes Regional Medical Center, we had to familiarize ourselves with the disaster management procedures that the hospital goes through, say in case there's a shooter on campus, in case there's a tornado or a hurricane that completely devastates the area. We have to know who's in charge in those situations, who sets up the incident command system, what Health First hospital is the incident command system, and who do we report to during those emergencies, right? So you already have somewhat of emergency and disaster preparedness because I would say that comes pretty naturally with your training in the military. You're always you're trained to be on alert and to deal with situations like that.
Right. Yes.
So if you were to, they're free courses through FEMA and FEMA's Emergency Management Institute, and it is sanctioned and issued directly through the Department of Homeland Security. They are free courses that you can that you can 100% add to your resume. And the reason that they're free is because FEMA wants as many people in leadership positions as possible, various, like across the board, any industry you can think of. Like, they want people to be as prepared as possible to take control and know what to do in a situation like that, and know who they need to report to avoid confusion during a disaster, right? So right off the bat, if you, like, say you were to go online and take those free courses, a lot of the information might actually seem redundant to you that you probably have already gone over in your military training.
Maybe.
But what's cool about it is that's just an additional thing that you can add to your resume and add to your continuing education that you would likely already be familiar with because of your military training. And that's only going to bolster your civilian resume even more, especially if you're applying for some sort of government position or state or local government position, you know.
Definitely give you some points ahead of other people, especially with your veteran status as well.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think, other different ribbons or medals also give you more points as well too. So I mean, coming off the rip, if you're coming off active duty or from the National Guard and you're getting out, and you got some deployments on your belts, you got some different service ribbons and stuff like that, you got to just look it up and Google that stuff and look at USA.jobs.gov if that's your avenue you want to go.
And even on the FEMA website as well, like if you look through their training courses, they have training courses for every job category you could possibly imagine. Like, they have emergency training courses for people in food service, and that's issued through the Department of Agriculture. So, like, things that you might normally not even think of, they have emergency management classes for, because what if a food service truck is attacked, or if food on a farm is tampered with? You know, there's all different types of situations that could arise. So you can actually search for classes within your industry that you have experience in or that you're in, and they are likely to have some sort of emergency management training for that job category. I had to go through it with dietetics and food service management. I had to go through it with clinical dietetics. Like, there's all kinds of training available for a variety of job categories. So it doesn't even hurt to go on there and look. It's training.fema.gov. On the website, under the blog tab, the most recent blog entry, it's about translating your military experience into, like, the civilian job market. And we have several resources on there. We did a bit of research earlier and kind of put a bunch of links together for you, so it'll take you directly to those resources so you don't have to hunt for them. Some of them are from the Veterans Affairs website. Some of them are from civilian websites. There's even a free resume builder link on there, which is pretty cool. It literally takes you step by step on how to write an effective resume. So they're helpful links that we hope you'll be able to utilize. And that's pretty much all I have, unless John has anything else to add.
And as I always shout out, if you're in the Washington State area, in Everett, and that's in Snohomish County, look up Jet Dispensary. And if you're into medicinal marijuana or just the enjoyment of recreational cannabis, check them out. Got dope products. Staff is awesome. You don't have to feel weird when you're in there, because some places you go, it's just super weird. People look at you like you're weird if you don't know what strain you want. They know how to talk to people, super energetic. Everyone's always there to help you out. Great prices, too. Prices are amazing. You can't beat it. Check them out. It's Jet Dispensary. I think you just type it in Google. It's
Jet.
Yeah, Jet.
And we're going to have the owners on an episode as well. So they've been listening along and they're cool people. I actually haven't even met them yet, but I'm looking forward to meeting them. And we're going to have them on an episode as well where they're going to talk through some of their favorite products and what it was like starting a cannabis business in Washington State.
Hell yeah. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited for that.
Those dogs, man.
Damn dogs.
Apologies for the dogs. We're still working on the studio. It's coming along. We finally got a new mic, so hopefully you guys are more satisfied with the volume and can hear us okay. The sound quality, I mean. And yeah, we've got some audio, a little bit of audio foam up, but we're not done yet. We still have to insulate the ceiling. So there might still be a little bit of echo, and you can obviously still hear those fucking dogs, which is really annoying. I'm really excited about our episode with our marriage counselor, though, because that's going to be a pretty juicy episode.
Yeah, but I also hope it helps people, you know, like, we've already been through it and got through our issues, and everyone's always still going to have issues no matter how much therapy you go to. It's just human nature. You know, hope it helps out anybody who listens and follows. And even if you don't follow, if you're just listening, I hope it helps you out as well. Well, appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thank you for listening again and putting up with our shenanigans. Hope you all have a good weekend. Have a good one.